It's your buddy Sid Rosenberg, and yeah, I'm famous. But guess what? So is my guy Mike. I love him. And his son Michael at Genesis of Brooklyn. This is not your typical dealership. Trust me, I've been there. It's a gorgeous place. The service, legendary. Brooklyn family values, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Free valet pickup up to 25 miles. Current year Genesis loaners. 3 years of maintenance included. Transparent, efficient, respectful. The best luxury service around. Genesis of Brooklyn. These are my guys, Mike and Mike. More luxury, less money.
Sweat moves you forward. Degree Antiperspirant is here to make sure it never holds you back. Clocking in, sweat. Lunch meeting, sweat. Biking home, sweat. Degree Advanced is for the hustlers who put in the sweat. The world's #1 antiperspirant with up to 72-hour sweat and odor protection. Degree, here for sweat. Try it today.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
You are now entering the Stone Zone. Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s newly selected Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices is set to meet next week, and they're expected to revise the childhood vaccination requirements. They're looking not only at COVID-19 vaccinations, but also hepatitis B, respiratory syncytial virus, as well as measles, mumps, rubella, and varicella. Big Pharma is in full attack with their attack dogs in the Democrat U.S. Senate caucus, taking a full frontal run at Robert F. Kennedy, demanding his resignation as he challenges the profit margins as well as the effectiveness and the safety of the products of Big Pharma. See, this is why CDC Director Suzanne Monterez was recently ousted, which was followed by the resignation of 4 other top CDC staffers, including the director of the National Centers for Immunization and Respiratory Diseases, Jim O'Neill, a longtime ally of RFK, having been named as acting CDC director. Let's listen to Robert F. Kennedy as he vanquishes the false narrative of Big Pharma.
Was politicized?
Yeah, the whole process was politicized. Senator, I mean, we were lied to about everything. We were lied to about natural immunity. We were lied to about, we were told again and again the vaccines would prevent transmission, they prevent infection. It wasn't true. They knew it from the start it wasn't true because that's what the animal studies and the clinical trials showed. We were told that there was science behind cloth masks. The CDC allowed the teachers union to write the order closing our schools, which hurt working people all over the country, and then pretend it was science-based. All of these issues, and then I can show you, like, for example, Chairman Wyden was talking about me politicizing ACIP. But during COVID, probably the most famous scientist on ACIP was Martin Kulldorff from Harvard, the great world-renowned epidemiologist and vaccinologist. And he criticized the COVID booster mandates. They ejected him from COVID because he wasn't in the orthodoxy. The 2 biggest health officials at FDA during COVID, Dr. Gruber and Dr. Krause, criticized the Biden mandates, vaccine mandate. President Biden said in August, I would never take that vaccine, the Trump vaccine. And he came in, he mandated it, and then he fired the 2 top health officials at FDA who said, hey, this thing has not been properly tested. So the whole process was politicized, and even today.
I'm 15.
So the FDA has already stopped emergency youth authorization for the COVID vaccine. You see, that's what they did to avoid clinical trials and also to avoid any legal liability by the manufacturer of vaccinations. The CDC is expected to recommend monoclonal antibodies as a way to reduce the vaccine schedule for children. It's not a surprise now that there's a full-out assault being waged against Robert F. Kennedy with the changes on the way. He needs to keep pushing forward because Big Pharma is clearly afraid that their wildly profitable and dangerous vaccine regimen is coming to an end. Listen to this exchange between hack partisan Democrat Frank Pallone and RFK.
You, Congressman Pallone, 15 years ago, you and I met. You were at that time a champion for people who had suffered injuries from vaccines. You were very adamant about it. You were the leading member of Congress on that issue. Since then, you've accepted $2 million from pharmaceutical companies in contribution, more than any other member of this committee. And your enthusiasm for supporting the old ACIP committee, which was completely rife and pervasive with pharmaceutical conflicts, seems to be an outcome of those contributions.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
point of order. Point of order.
The chair recognizes
Point of order. The
Dr.
gentleman is impugning the reputation of a member of Congress.
And I'll address you, Congressman Pallone. 15 years ago, you and I met. You were at that time a champion for people who had suffered injuries from vaccines. You were very adamant about it. You were the leading member of Congress on that issue. Since then, you've accepted $2 million from pharmaceutical companies in contribution, more than any other member of this committee. And your enthusiasm for supporting the old ACIP committee, which was completely rife and pervasive with pharmaceutical conflicts, seems to be an outcome of those contributions.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
Point of order. Point of order.
The chair recognizes
Point of order. The
Dr.
gentleman is impugning the reputation of a member of Congress.
There you have it. You see precisely what's going on. There's a much longer exchange between Senator Elizabeth Warren and RFK, so long that we're not able to play it for you here, but it's not incidental that Senator Warren, who, as we know, lied about her ethnic heritage, claimed to be a Native American in order to get a scholarship to go to college, has taken $1,224,145,000 from Big Pharma. The other big critic of RFK Jr., Senator Bernie Sanders, that socialist windbag, he's taken $1,953,613. Let's look at RFK's other big critics. Senator Warnock from Georgia. When he's not busy running his wife over with a car, he's taken $1,763,425. And then Ron Wyden. Look, I'm no matinee idol, but this guy looks like he's from outer space. He's taken $1,207,873. And then, of course, there's Chuck Schumer, the Senate minority leader. He's in for $1,557,928. So this idea that RFK should be fired because he's challenging both Big Pharma and Big Food, because as we've discussed here in the Stone Zone, he's also finally got a number of the major food producers to stop including toxic chemicals in products like breakfast cereals. There's an all-out effort to destroy RFK because he threatens the profit margins of Big Pharma and Big Food. Right here in the Stone Zone, weeks ago, we exposed a secret memo outlining a strategy to destroy RFK and his reputation that had leaked. He is doing exactly what he said he would do. He's working to make America healthy again. And he is fulfilling the commitment of President Donald Trump. Now, Trump and RFK have formed a new alliance that very clearly transcends party. This is not about Republican and Democrat. It is an undeniable fact that after all of these members of Congress whether it's Bernie Sanders or whether it's Elizabeth Warren or whether it's Frank Pallone, during the time that they have been in Congress, America has gotten much sicker. The uptick in chronic childhood disease is off the charts. The uptick in cancers among those 20 to 30 years old, off the charts. The uptick in autism, which I think is Robert Kennedy's next target, is off the charts. So no one can say that America has been made healthier while these veteran politicians have been in place. Keep an eye on this, folks. There's a huge amount of disinformation out there. Robert F. Kennedy is carrying out the mandate of the American people who are tired of being sold a bill of goods as America gets sicker and poorer at the hands of Big Pharma. Meanwhile, a horrifying video went viral over the weekend of a man brutally stabbing an innocent woman to death in Charlotte, North Carolina last month. DeCarlos Brown, Jr., 34, a homeless serial felon, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder after he stabbed 23-year-old Irina Zurutska in the neck 3 times before just casually walking away and leaving her lifeless corpse on the floor. Brown's rap sheet includes robbery with a dangerous weapon, larceny, and communicating threats. The response from Charlotte Mayor Vi Lyles demonstrates why Democrats should not be allowed to lead major cities. Mayor Lyles said, "We will never arrest our way out of issues such as homelessness and mental health." I don't understand this. Keeping this monster in prison where he belongs would have saved this young woman's life, and that's a fact. Of course, the fake news media is refusing to properly cover the incident because the assailant was black and the victim was white. This act of terror deserves nationwide protests and outrage instead of the likes of George Floyd, who likely overdosed on fentanyl while being unhinged during a police encounter. It is clear that Black Lives Matter's narrative on crime is laughably false. The real systematic injustices occur regularly in diverse, multicultural America are happening to white people. This entire issue deserves more coverage than it is getting. Meanwhile, failed presidential candidate Kamala Harris lost her access to Los Angeles Police Department security details following anger over that community based on the fact that resources are being wasted on this wealthy career politician. I'm Roger Stone. You're listening to the Stone Zone right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks. And don't go away. We'll have more hot political coverage for you when we come back.
I was deep in it, gaming on Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 7. Unfolding the screen made it twice as big and so immersive, I kinda lost myself. Might have trolled a little too close to the sun. Someone in the chat told me to touch grass, so I took my Z Fold 7 outside and kept playing. Still won, got a tan, and a nice little reset. Powerful processor, realistic graphics, you stay locked in, streak stays alive. Can your phone do that?
The new Galaxy Z Fold 7. Get yours at Samsung.com.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Welcome to Only Murders in the Building,
the official podcast.
Join me, Michael Cyril Creighton, as we go behind the scenes with some of the amazing actors, writers, and crew from season 5.
The audience should never stop suspecting anything.
How can you not be funny crawling around on a coffin?
No, that's true.
Catch Only Murders in the Building official podcast, now streaming wherever you get your podcasts. And watch Only Murders in the Building, streaming on Hulu and Hulu on Disney Plus for bundle subscribers. Terms apply.
Running a business means I wear lots of hats. Luckily, when it's time to put on my hiring hat, I can count on LinkedIn to make it easy. I can post a job for free or pay to promote it and get 3 times more qualified candidates. Imagine finding your next great hire in 24 hours. 86% of small businesses do. With LinkedIn, I can also easily share my job with my network. No other job site lets me do that. Post your free job at linkedin.com/achieve. That's linkedin.com/achieve. Terms and conditions apply.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
And we're back in the zone. The Stone Zone is the hottest political commentary show on AM radio today. The Trump administration has released startling information showing that a staggering 22,638 unaccompanied migrant children coming across the border were completely lost while Joe Biden was in office, with at least 27 of those children now being confirmed as dead. Border czar Tom Homan, happens to be a personal friend of mine, said, "We found children who've been raped. We're talking about debt bondage, where children are being made to work off debt from the cost of trafficking them into the country. We're talking about children that were brought into situations then treated like sex slaves, where children are in horrific environments, just environments that they should not be in, where the sponsor is a heroin dealer and that child winds up dying of a heroin overdose. These child migrants who cross the borders have frequently found living in horrendous conditions, dead or were exploited for labor or used for sex slaves, as Tom Homan says. It's been revealed that there was a backlog of 65,000 reports regarding abuses from migrant child sponsors that went completely unaddressed by the Biden administration. It's clear that the planned migrant invasion done to hasten the demographic apocalypse in America was one of the most exploitive acts that we've ever seen here in our country. This is on a par with human slavery. Those responsible and those who deliberately look the other way must be charged and imprisoned for crimes against humanity. Meanwhile, during a CNN interview on Friday night, a New York City mayoral candidate, the Ayatollah Zohran Mamdani, made it clear that he does not plan to moderate his far-left socialist agenda if he's elected to the position of mayor. Mamdani made it clear that even if he only wins 1/3 of the vote in a split race, he intends to use his political capital to fulfill the promises he has made on the campaign trail, citing the flamboyant and extraordinarily effeminate Minnesota Governor Tim Walz as his inspiration for using electoral power to enact far-out left-wing socialist policies. Policies that Mamdani has advocated for on the campaign trail include banning immigration enforcement in the city, hiking taxes on white people and the wealthy, his words, not mine, instituting rent controls, meaning that landlords would never be allowed to raise rent, which means they would never be able to make repairs to their properties, subsidizing housing and health care, creating a hate crime task force to police free speech, in other words, censorship of anyone who doesn't agree with him, and using the government to nationalize grocery stores. This is exactly what Mamdani will do if he wins. He's not shy about his radicalism. The people of New York City need to wake up and realize this man is an existential threat to their safety and their prosperity. If the people do not wake up and Mamdani is made mayor, it will show the rest of the country what's in store for them if they put the extremist Democrats back into power. Stay tuned to the Stone Zone because we're joined by Peter Antico. Peter Antico is currently a candidate for the Screen Actors Guild and the AFTRA, the union I belong to, actually. And there's a lot of shenanigans going on there. Only about 10% of the 160,000 members earn the $28,000 necessary to earn health care. This is the lowest contribution in union history. This is a function of very poor contract negotiations, corrupt business practices, and potential fraud. There's no transparency within union operations. The staff earns 3 times the pension payouts that the actual members do, and it is run by the staff for the benefit of the staff and, well, the members be damned. We're going to bust this wide open when we come back with Peter Antico on the other side. In the meantime, you're listening to the Stone Zone with me, Roger Stone, right here on the Red Apple Audio Networks, where 5 days a week we talk politics, news, history, style, and food. Whatever you do, don't touch that dial, because we'll be right back. We're going to give you the inside skinny on the incredible corruption within the Screen Actors Guild, an organization once chaired by one Ronald W. Reagan prior to his becoming governor of California and becoming president of the United States. Little known trivia fact, the only former Union president to become president was my own Ronald Reagan. We'll be right back.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Learning through play starts with Lego Duplo. With Lego Duplo, toddlers can develop real-life skills while having fun with colorful bricks made just for them. Large, easy to grip, and safe to explore. When children express themselves with Lego Duplo, they build patience, problem-solving, and empathy. See your child learn perseverance and self-expression with everything they imagine and create. Visit lego.com/preschool to learn more.
Getting ready to step into your career era? Set yourself apart with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Hone your skills with apps like Photoshop, Illustrator, Premiere Pro, and more, powered with the latest in creative AI. Students save over 55%, so you can build a portfolio you're proud of. Launch your future with Adobe Creative Cloud Pro for students. Visit adobe.com/students to learn more.
Leading a business today means constantly adapting. On the Executive Insights podcast, brought to you by AWS, global leaders share how they're making tough calls, testing bold ideas, and putting innovation into practice, generative AI included. If you're looking for real stories behind what's working, this is it. Subscribe to the Executive Insights podcast today, available now on all major podcast platforms.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back into the Stone Zone. Joining me now is Peter Antico. Peter is a macroeconomic scholar with a deep understanding of the rapidly changing velocity of capital and its effects on the global marketplace. Peter has two passions, finance and film. In fact, you may not know this, but you've seen Peter because his film credits as an actor include The Creators, where he played opposite Gerard Depardieu, Bruce Payne, and William Shatner. He was also in Oliver Stone's Wall Street 2, portraying a hedge fund manager. The Other Guys with Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg. Black Dynamite, The Hunt for Red October, Con Air, Lethal Weapon 3, and Time Cop 2. Antico has had memorable roles in such films as 29th Street with Danny Aiello and Motorcycle Gang, directed by John Milius. Now, Peter and I are both members of the Screen Actors Guild and the American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, known as SAG-AFTRA. As I said in the earlier portion of the show, Ronald Reagan was a former president of the Screen Actors Guild, and it is one of the small pieces of trivia that I know that Ronald Reagan is actually the only union president to ever become president of the United States. So, Peter, welcome to the Stone Zone.
Thank you very much.
There are two reasons for a union to exist. One is to ensure fair wages and working conditions, as well as a strong pension and health plan. Has our union delivered on those mandates?
No, they haven't. In fact, only 10% of our members out of 160,000 even earn the $28,000 necessary per year to qualify for health care. That's the lowest in union history. which is a function of very poor contract negotiations starting back from 2008 until present. And you also should note that our staff, our good staff, earns 3 times the pension payout. They earn $280,000 a year as a cap. And members like Tom Cruise or Tom Hanks and George Clooney, the maximum they can earn is $96,000 per year. So our union has now been co-opted, running by the staff for the benefit of the staff, and the members are getting shut out.
Now, Donald Trump, who was also a member because of the enormous popularity of The Apprentice, plus having appeared in numerous films and in memorable cameos, was ejected from the union. That was spearheaded, as I recall, by the union president, Gabriel Carteris, based on hearsay when he was going through impeachment proceedings. And, of course, ultimately he was exonerated. Tell me about that. It sounds to me like our union is extremely politically correct.
What our union is an entertainment union and a labor union across the country. And we've always mandated, since back to Ed Asner, not to be political, because obviously there's tax credits in many different states. And if you're either on the Democratic or the Republican side, if you anger those kinds of people, you could lose that kind of funding, which would damage the employment opportunities for our members. In regard to Mr. Trump, President Trump, getting thrown out of the union or ejected, it was based upon hearsay. They stated that he was damaging the broadcasters because he was calling a lot of them out for the false reporting that they were doing. And it's interesting because it usually works as we have a disciplinary committee. But the President, Gabrielle, took it to the national board because I believe she didn't want to single herself out, because I believe that she feared getting litigated against for defamation of character. And the board voted to eject him except for 8 members that voted no. I was one of the people that voted no, simply because there was a lack of due process. I mean, you have to let the accuser appear, and you have to provide evidence. And so this was a kangaroo court that was basically voted on for political reasons, because classically our union presidents, they spend time in Washington with the Democratic Party, with Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. And during this time, it was very contentious in the country. So this was going through, when Mr. Trump was going through a trial and then got exonerated, they should have apologized. And they didn't do that. They basically threw him out because of lack of due process. And my issue is due process. Everyone in this country, Democrat or Republican, is mandated to have due process. You can't be judge, jury, and executioner. It's highly unethical and political. And let me make a note. Jussie Smollett, who committed that hate crime, all the broadcasters in that room supported that. Kamala Harris supported that. And they said everybody rallied around that. Then it was false. There was a complaint made against Mr. Smollett to have him disciplined. It took them 3 months, and they did nothing. So it appears like it's a double standard at our union, and that's the facts on that particular case. I think they should be federally investigated for their actions because they're highly unethical.
So, as I recall reading, 8,200 senior performers got kicked off of their health care benefits from the union in the middle of the pandemic, and you were among those litigated against the health plan trustees, to include the national executive director. The case ultimately settled for $20.6 million for the benefit of these senior performers. Talk to me about that.
Okay, so what happened in this? In the 2020 collective bargaining agreement, the contract negotiation, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, our executive director, and a political party called Unite for Strength, which represents the majority of our national board, put out propaganda that stated $54 million was negotiated into our pension and health. When I first heard that, I jumped up and down and said, that's phenomenal. But they used that to actually sell the contract. But what they withheld was that 75% of that $54 million was picked from actors' pockets and taken and moved over from their cost of living raises. So a gain is only a gain if the opposing party foots the bill, and they didn't do that. 2 weeks after they voted that contract up in 2020, 8,200 seniors were kicked off the plan because our national executive director, Duncan Crabtree Ireland, failed to inform our negotiating committee that the health plan was in financial trouble, and he is a trustee of that plan. He breached his fiduciary duty. So I initiated a lawsuit for the benefit of the seniors against the trustees of the health plan, which included Duncan Crabtree Ireland, and the case was ultimately settled for 20.6 in favor of the seniors. Now, I want to let you know that Fran Drescher called it frivolous. She was the president. The entire opposing party called it frivolous, but in a court of law, we were proven correct. And to add insult to injury, 3 weeks ago, there was a Netcode contract, and Duncan is a trustee on AFTRA's retirement fund. He came to the board and stated that AFTRA's retirement fund was in financial trouble, and if we didn't put money into it, that the trust agreement would have to be reorganized, and that means it basically could go bankrupt. He did this again with no notice. So that is an additional breach of fiduciary duty. He did it twice. I mean, if you did it once, maybe you're going to forgive somebody and say it was a mistake, but it wasn't. He did it twice. That's why I believe the union should be federally investigated, because I believe there's a lot of nefarious, salacious behavior in regard to our finances that have actually destroyed the infrastructure and the benefits that do the members of our union.
As I understand it, you are a candidate for Secretary-Treasurer of the Union. Do you believe the election process will be fair for candidates who are not well-known celebrities?
Well, no, I actually don't, because here's how most people don't understand this. They charge national candidates money if we want to send an email out to the entire membership during the election season. So it costs me $4,900 right now to send one email out to the national membership. It cost me $2,400 to send one email to California, the Los Angeles branch, and it cost me another $1,100 to send one to New York. But here's the rub. Most of my emails, 70% of them went to spam. I filed a complaint with the Department of Justice and the Department of Labor because they coded the emails incorrectly, and they used a company called iContact, which is a bulk email spammer that's on the blacklist for spamming people. And then they put the word campaign in the headers, and it goes to many of the email server spam. So I gave the board, I gave the governance department the technical specs on how they screwed up. And wouldn't you know it, 5 days later they came back and wrote me a letter and stated that we inadvertently miscoded the emails, and then they stated that only 107 of them would be resent. And I said that's technologically impossible. When you're sending out a bulk email, once it goes to the server and you push send, it goes out to all email inboxes. So out of all the people I polled, 9 in New York, 9 out of 11 I just started, and 8 out of 10 went to the spam folders. So how are members going to have a fair election if the members at large in the entire country get 70% of the emails go to spam? That's not fair. Everyone should be able to hear your financial platform and your policies and what you're going to do to protect the members. And then that's fair, but they didn't do that. And that's why I also believe they need to be federally investigated. Furthermore, I'm reading information from Free the Vote or True the Vote that these voting machines can be hacked. And though they're mail-in ballots, when they put them in the machines, they have to be watched. And this really has to be done, correctly with people there that understand how this works. And I really would wish someone from True the Vote would be there to make sure there's no routers operating, because they shouldn't be connected to any internet and any routers, nor using any SBA ports to plug into those machines, or the votes can be changed. So this was just brought to my attention 4 days ago, and I didn't know this, but I'm bringing it to your attention because SAG-AFTRA has not been run fairly. It's not transparent. They don't give information to the members, and they censor information that would cause the membership, to rise up and vote and create new leadership. Because, respectfully, our pension funding from 2014 to 2024 has gone down 0.5% to 1.5% a year, and that's for 10 years. And then, as I said before, the health care is only 10% people that qualified. So if you look at the financial metrics, that doesn't lie. The union has been failing from a financial point of view. So you really have to look at it pragmatically and just look at the data, because the data speaks for itself.
Well, I hate to tell you this, but I think you were subjected to what we call a political dirty trick. We saw this in the elections. Google did this regularly. I tracked it in 2016. If Hillary Clinton put out a blast email, it was classified in such a way that it had about a 90% delivery rate. Yet if Donald Trump's campaign put out a blast email, say a press release, 90% of those would go to the spam file. And we actually proved this at the time. It's just one of the ways that they cheat. It's going to be very interesting because Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, is currently looking at classified documents regarding the efficiency, the effectiveness, and the integrity of these computerized voting machines. As you know, she's already made stunning revelations about the so-called Russian collusion hoax. And I think she's now turned her attention to the election process of 2020 to see whether we had a fair, honest election. A lot of people waiting with bated breath for her report. She's shown stunning courage so far in terms of exposing the fact that the Russian collusion hoax narrative was exactly that, a fraud upon the American people. It was nothing less than the greatest single dirty trick in American political history. It was an abuse of power in which the full authority of the U.S. government and the incredible capability of our intelligence agencies were used to try to undo the results of a fair election, the 2016 election. Whether anybody's going to be held responsible for that, well, that remains to be seen. All right, I want to thank our guest, Peter Antico. I want to also wish you the very best, Peter, in your upcoming election. Sounds to me like you've got an uphill fight, but also I can tell just on the basis of this interview that you are a fighter and that you will never quit when it comes to doing the right thing.
Yep. Thank you very much, Roger. And lastly, I'd just like to say that if anybody didn't turn in their ballot today, please mail your ballot. Vote your heart based upon the information you get. And I pray that everyone that's listening, go to your spam email folders and look for my letters to the membership. One was on August 15th, and one was on September. It was last Friday on the 5th, but the one I wrote before that to the national membership was 2 weeks before that. Check your spam filters because people are voting without the information to know my financial stance. And I would appreciate an ethical and fair election, and I sincerely appreciate this interview. Thank you.
All right. Don't go away, folks, because we'll be right back.
Optimism isn't sunshine and rainbows. It's fixing things, changing the way we fix things. It's running the world on smarter energy. Because if optimism never stops, then change can't either. GE Vernova, the energy of change.
This is an ad.
I hate it!
An ad for crisp, refreshing Angry Orchard hard cider.
That is refreshing.
An ad that interrupted your podcast.
I hate being interrupted!
To remind you to stop being angry at me and crack open an Angry Orchard.
That's a good idea.
Don't get angry! Get Orchard. Angry Orchard Cider Company, LLC. AngryOrchard.com. Please drink responsibly. Angry Orchard is a hard cider with other natural flavors.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
Breathe deep. Imagine your legs more limber in Duluth Trading Double Flex Denim. Envision euphorically squatting for that can of suds, bending for your toolbox in a state of bliss, lunging for your laser level on a whole new level. Relax and allow the flex to fill you with ability. Find your inner flex in Double Flex Denim only at Duluth Trading.
The Stone Zone, entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back to the Stone Zone. President Donald Trump appeared with his family to watch the U.S. Open in New York City this weekend, where he received a hero's welcome. The cheers far outweighed the boos as President Donald Trump was shown on the big screen during the national anthem at Arthur Ashe Stadium in the Queens. Just like when President Trump shows up in the front row to watch a UFC fight, the people are animated and inspired when they see our brave leader. The era when President Trump was treated as a third rail is over. The overwhelming majority of the people has come to respect his bold and brash style, knowing that he has the best interests of America at heart. President Trump sees everything through the prism of what is best for America, always putting his country first. He is by far the most popular politician in the country by a country mile, and has radicalized the Democrats who continue to resist him. They will only alienate more of the mainstream as they sow the seeds for their upcoming electoral doom in the midterm elections. Those who predict disaster for the Republican Party in the upcoming midterms don't understand that, first of all, in politics, a week is a lifetime. And then secondarily, the current polls, at least the ones that I respect, show me that Trump's popularity is actually at an all-time high. You won't see that at CNN or MSNBC, but then I don't get my news from those outlets for the same reason I don't drink out of the toilet. The president is actually forcing Democrats to embrace tough on crime policies. Maryland Governor Wes Moore and Baltimore City Mayor Brandon Scott, both far-left Democrats, have announced that they will be increasing law enforcement resources in the crime-ridden city of Baltimore. A very far cry from the defund the police policies that were pushed by Democrats for years. They hope that the increase in law enforcement will prevent President Trump from having to send the National Guard in to maintain order. Mayor Brandon Scott said, "It takes all of us, the city, the state, and the federal law enforcement, including the AFT, the FBI, and the DEA, community violence interrupters and residents, to build on this progress and to create a safer, healthier Baltimore that we actually know is possible." In other words, kind of like Mayor Bowser of D.C., recognizing that they're much better off working with the feds than working against them. Unfortunately, Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, who continues to live in this fantasy world in which he insists that crime is not an issue in the Windy City, is almost openly urging insurrection and resistance. If Mayor Johnson interferes with a member of the National Guard performing their duties to try to bring safety to the city of Chicago, well, then he should be arrested like anyone else. Instead, he continues to call for resistance and to claim that what Trump is doing to clean up our inner cities is tyranny. It's interesting because Mayor Moore of Baltimore had previously been funded by George Soros to bring drug consumption sites into Baltimore where bums and lowlifes can smoke crack and shoot heroin without consequences. It's a new day in America. With Donald Trump in the White House, we finally have a president who not only respects the men and women in blue and has their back, but is also very serious about his pledge to be the law and order president. Thanks for joining us today on the Stone Zone. We're here 5 days a week on the Red Apple Audio Networks, where we talk news, history, politics, style, and once in a while we even talk about my favorite subject, food. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed. We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Thanks for listening to The Stone Zone with Roger Stone. You can hear The Stone Zone with Roger Stone weeknights at 8 on 77 WABC. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode, so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?